in a bustling town where music and celebration filled the air. A grand wedding was about to take place between Daniel and his beautiful bride-to-be, Lydia, and people had gathered from far and wide to witness what was believed to be a perfect love story. Yet hidden beneath the shining decorations and colorful flowers was a secret that carried the weight of heartbreak and truth. For in another part of the town lived a young woman named Mariam, whose heart was heavy and whose body carried the life of an unborn child, a child whose father was the very man standing at the altar that day. Mariam had once believed in Daniel's promises when he whispered love into her ears and swore that she was the only woman in his life, and she had trusted him with her future and her dreams, never knowing that she was only a hidden chapter in a story he planned to erase. And when she discovered she was pregnant, she felt both fear and hope, believing that Daniel would stand beside her and take responsibility. But instead he vanished, blocked her calls, and prepared to marry another woman, as if she had never existed. For weeks Mariam cried alone in her small room, holding her stomach and speaking to the unborn child, telling its stories of courage and truth, while the town buzzed with excitement about Daniel's wedding. And every poster she saw and every song she heard felt like a knife cutting deeper into her heart. Until one morning she looked at her reflection in the mirror and realized that silence would only bury her pain, and that the truth deserved a voice. So she put on a simple blue dress, wrapped a shawl around her shoulders, and walked toward the wedding hall with trembling legs but burning determination, not to destroy the ceremony, but to reveal the lie that had been hidden behind smiles and silk. Inside the wedding hall, music played loudly, and guests danced while Lydia sat glowing in white, believing that her future was about to begin. And Daniel stood proudly beside her, pretending to be a loyal man, until suddenly the doors opened and Mariam stepped inside, and the music slowly faded as people turned to look at the unfamiliar woman whose eyes were full of tears and strength at the same time. And she walked forward with slow steps until she stood before the bride and groom, and in a voice that shook but did not break, she said, "I did not come to ruin your wedding, but I came to speak the truth." And then she placed her hand on her pregnant belly and added, "This child inside me belongs to Daniel." The hall exploded into whispers and gasps, and Lydia's face turned pale as she looked from Mariam to Daniel, whose mouth opened but no words came out. And Mariam continued, explaining how Daniel had promised her marriage, how he had loved her in secret, and how he had disappeared when she told him she was carrying his child. And with every word the truth poured out like rain after a long drought, washing away the illusion of perfection. And Lydia felt the ground disappear beneath her feet as she realized that the man she trusted had built their future on lies. Daniel finally tried to defend himself, saying it was a mistake and that Mariam was lying. But the pain in her eyes and the curve of her belly spoke louder than his excuses. And Lydia raised her hand to stop him and asked Mariam one simple question. "Did he ever tell you about me?" And Mariam answered honestly, "No, he said he was alone in this world." And those words struck Lydia like thunder, for she understood that both of them had been deceived in different ways by the same man. Silence filled the hall, and then Lydia did something no one expected. She stepped away from Daniel and walked toward Mariam. And instead of anger, she showed compassion, placing her hand gently on Mariam's shoulder and saying, "You did not steal my husband, he stole our trust." And in that moment, the wedding that was meant to celebrate love became a lesson about truth and dignity. And Lydia removed her veil and announced to the guests that she would not marry a man who could abandon his own child and hide another woman in the shadows. Mariam collapsed into tears, not because she had won, but because she had finally been heard. And the guests slowly left the hall in silence, leaving Daniel standing alone among broken flowers and scattered decorations. And that day marked the end of his lies and the beginning of accountability, for the town would never look at him the same again. In the days that followed, Lydia chose strength over shame and walked away from the marriage. And Mariam found support from women who understood her pain And though her journey as a single mother would not be easy, she felt peace knowing she had chosen truth instead of fear. And when her child was born, she named him Hope, for he was the symbol of courage that came from a moment of honesty. And the story of the pregnant woman who showed up at the wedding was told not as gossip, but as a warning, and a lesson that love without truth is only a costume, and that dignity is worth more than silence, and that sometimes the bravest thing a woman can do is stand in the middle of celebration and speak the truth even when her voice shakes.